Thank you again for coming onto the show. Very much appreciated. It was kind of a mutual decision for you to come on the show, wasn't it? Because I've been thinking before about the 21st of December 2012 and the idea of the Mayans, and I was actually getting annoyed at people on Facebook and annoyed by the mass media saying that they predicted the end of the world. Well, it wasn't the Mayans that predicted the end of the world. That's not true, is it?
No, it's not. No. The Mayan calendar came to an end, yes. But some crackpot decided that meant that the world was going to end. The media loved it as a time for a joke and to make light of it and to fill the pages with all sorts of flippant comments. The calendar that we need to talk about, it's one that you can actually track right back to the time of the Big Bang. So it started at the time of the Big Bang and it ended on December the 21st, 2012.
No, you're joking.
No, I'm not joking. So this has got to be something pretty significant. And the question is, what does it mean? The Mayans did have this almost unbelievable knowledge of astronomy and mathematics to the extent that they had several calendars. It is extraordinary, but the Mayans are not to be underestimated. These are not savages living in the jungle.
Yeah.
You know, these are very, very sophisticated people. There are actually 9 cycles which start at the beginning of the universe at the time of the Big Bang. So that's the first cycle. And then the next cycle comes in at about 800 million years ago. And what happens is that each successive cycle goes 20 times faster than the one before. But they all end on 21st of December 2012. Now, at that point, what's happening is that the process of creation, if you like, has accelerated to such a rate. It's like an exponential curve. It's like it just accelerates and accelerates and accelerates to the point where eventually it goes through the roof. And that's what happened on 21st of December 2012. And what we really need to look at is, if this is such a significant moment, what does it mean? Of whether it was exactly that date or not, in our terms. To me, it's very clear that this is happening at this moment in time. And the effects of it are happening around this time, and probably will take a few years, maybe several years, to really come to light. And what I've tried to do is to sift through all of this stuff. Admittedly, I waited until 21st of December to see if anything would happen.
You were very interested to see what happened on the actual day.
Yes.
And luckily, you haven't gone into great detail with me. So what did you actually notice on the day? Where were you? What were you doing?
Well, I was at home and on the internet, looking at discussion forums and so on, and watching what the press was saying. And of course, nothing happened. And I must say I was disappointed. It wasn't that I was disappointed that, I wasn't hit by a blast of light. It was that just about everybody went through this day not understanding what the significance of the day really is, and coming away thinking, oh, well, the Mayans didn't know what they were talking about anyway, did they? But I'd heard back in the 1980s that on that day there was going to be a quantum leap of consciousness. Now, what does that mean? Basically, it meant that we would all see the light in some way, that we would transform ourselves or be transformed in some way that would probably turn us into feeling that we were all one big family of humanity on the planet, and we had to start behaving like a family, loving each other and helping each other and sorting out the way we behave on the planet, perhaps cleaning up the mess we've made, and building a happy future together, this sort of thing.
For me, it was a tipping point. I think that date was the tipping point in the balance, where even now, some of my friends who just don't even touch, quote unquote, the spiritual side, 9 to 5, footy, X Factor, that's the way life is. They're actually seeing that there must be something more, and what is this, and what is the creation, and where did we come from? And they're starting to question more, and I think now it's come to a tipping point where people are more open to come out about it, and it only takes a few people, and a few more people then to actually say that I'm feeling these things, and I felt different things.
You're right. And in fact, your footy friends have been going through a quantum leap of consciousness for several years now, and to some degree are aware of that. And what I'm referring to here is the use of the internet.
Yeah.
Since it began, we've been connecting with people all over the world, and we've been making friends with people all over the world. And as we come up closer to today, we've got things like Facebook, which is doing a fantastic job of bringing people together all over the world. And people are beginning to know about other people and the way they live, and making friends with people. There was a study quoted earlier on this week saying that people who go online are increasingly identifying themselves by what they call their status online, which I think is sort of how many friends they've got on Facebook and how much they use the internet, instead of their nationality, their race, religion, what have you. And it's going beyond all the differences that people have traditionally found, quite difficult to cope with. This is a leap of consciousness. This is becoming aware that in some ways we are a big family on this planet, and we are in many ways very equal and very much the same.
Yeah.
Despite the more superficial differences, and it develops literally a higher state of consciousness. It's more like a group consciousness, which is in terms of consciousness, it is a quantum leap.
Yeah.
So in ways like that, bringing people together actually does cause this tipping point. And I think we came out of last year with a new awareness about the value of relations with other people worldwide. The purpose of the calendar appears to be it's the development of a frame of consciousness where really it's a human being who regards himself as being part of the universe and totally connected with other humans and all of life. And that recognition, that awareness, brings great implications. And it's that awareness that's really the key to the whole of what actually happened at the moment that we arrived at December 21st.
Well, what a great way to... I feel like I'm at a cliffhanger at the end of this soap when they say, tune in for the next episode. So, 21st December, come and gone. Now, you talked about it quickly before the news came on, the idea of what now. So, if we had Joe Bloggs in the street come up to us today and I said, well, I've got a guest on talking about the Mayans, 21st December, what's your next question? I reckon most say, well, yeah, what now?
I think we can all see that there is something going on in the world today. And if we pull it all together, we can work out for ourselves where it's going and how we should be queuing into it. And that is that there is this quantum shift in consciousness going on, which is bringing us all together. And the example I gave a few minutes ago about the World Wide Web and how we're connecting with people all over the world it seems to me that this is very much the motif of what now. It's that we've come to a time when we've become aware that there's a big world out there, more than that, a big universe out there, and our awareness of life is growing by huge leaps and bounds right at this time now. And that again is indicative of us human beings becoming much more aware. And in practical terms, I think what this means is we would begin to connect with people everywhere and become aware of what's going on around the world, as we do through television as well as through the internet and through mobile phones, for example. We can speak to anybody anywhere now. So many of people in the world are web enabled. It's almost as if the whole world is becoming interconnected. And if you sort of logically take that forward, you can see the possibility of so many connections between people that it just dissolves things like national borders. It dissolves the differences that we've been so aware of. And just through learning about people, and especially having to recognize that there are a lot of problems in the world for people. For example, things like droughts, earthquakes, and so on. It's very heartening that these days we can hear about an earthquake and immediately people are rushing forward to support in any way that they possibly can. And I think we can see a trend there that's clearly moving towards us all recognizing ourselves as just one big family, getting on with each other and helping, supporting each other, opening our hearts to one another. And really, I think that opening the heart is very much a feature of the point at which we are now, because you see this. You can see this growing. And as we do that, we become more sensitive to what's going on and what's needed. And we've got, it's not just a matter of thinking that towards people, we can think about that towards animals. For example, we hear about endangered species, and we know that we shouldn't be allowing this kind of thing to happen, especially because of what we're doing in the world and the planet as a whole. We've got climate change going on. We're beginning to recognize that we should be aware of what our carbon footprint is. That's, you know, how much carbon dioxide we generate through our activities, such as driving cars, buying food that comes over long distances, taking air travel, all kinds of industrial activities, heating at home, that sort of thing. We generate individually huge amounts of carbon dioxide, which are contributing to climate change. And we're beginning to become responsible. In some
ways, like you said, you said it, I think, in the first hour, the idea of becoming more aware, and I think that's probably the key word, isn't it? Aware of everything, aware of our position on Earth, aware that we do make a difference, yes. Aware that we are all one, aware there is more than what we've seen here. And I think that's what it's the unveiling, I feel, of the new Earth. Sounds a bit cheesy, but the idea of who we really are deep down, who we are really loving beings, and deep down we all want to live well and all want to support each other. And I think the idea of the web, etc., we'll talk about more in detail, because I want to ask you some more questions. So Phil, you were talking before again about awareness and the idea that you feel, and the Mayans did as well, that's what you feel. They think the idea that we're in a point now where we're becoming more aware that we're global and more aware that we're galactic, aware that we're all one.
The thing is that there are many, many problems in the world, and the world at the moment faces some really major potential crises, like, for example, food supplies becoming short, water supplies. And the more we get to know about these things, the more certainly our heart opens, so we become compassionate about the people who are being affected by those. But we're beginning to realize that actually we're all responsible for these things in many ways. For example, climate change. To at least some degree that is not, I don't think, completely realized at the moment, we are contributing to climate change. The way that we live impacts on the planet in a major way. And we hear about the way in which we destroy the planet. We're becoming aware of our personal impact on the planet. For example, where do we buy our food from? Well, we might buy it from a supermarket, but where do they buy it from? It could be the other side of the world. What's going on there that's actually enabling us to have food from there? You know, if we're buying clothes, where are they being made? What are the circumstances? Are we talking about child labor? Are we talking about sweatshops? You know, our awareness of the impact that we personally have on the planet is growing day by day in leaps and bounds. We're learning about how these global systems work, and we're beginning to say this is not right, and something needs to be done. And we are beginning to recognize that we ourselves have a responsibility and also a power to do something about these things. And I think the time is coming when we're beginning to look for new political systems, new banking systems, new economic systems that will be more sympathetic to the planet, more sympathetic towards other people around the planet. And I think we're beginning now a process of all coming together as a single family and behaving like it.
I think, yeah, it's a really good point to what you're saying. I think, because I'm trying to see it from the bigger perspective, going back to the Mayans, etc. And I think what you're saying, that I'm getting from what you're saying, is the idea that these things come into this age now, especially around 2012, and all these, through the internet, through media, we're seeing more of what's going on in the world, which then kind of gives us a responsibility that what we're actually doing, that we can change it. And it goes back to kind of the good old beliefs of that we have to be the change we wish to see. You know, we can't look on the telly and go, oh, that's awful, and do nothing about it. We can't go, oh yeah, there's, you know, I don't like this in the country, and then do nothing about it. You know, we've got to be the ones that kind of pick ourselves up and go, right, if we want change, we've got to. And it's a good point what you said about the shops. And again, I'm not, like I said about the supermarkets, you know, people go, oh, the shops are shutting. Well, that's because we're not shopping at the local shops. Yes. We're shopping, so we have to take responsibility that we're shutting the corner shops, not the economy. We're shutting them because we're going to Asda to save, or any other supermarket, to save money, which I understand that to some point, but we can't then moan that shops are shutting if we're not shopping and the shops are used to, because we're going to the super conglomerates to get to save more money. And I think that's where I feel you're saying we're going to the point, coming back to the awareness that we can make a difference, but we've got to be the change we wish to see.
That's right.
Yeah, yes, in every aspect, in love, in the idea of where you shop, where you actually put your money.
Yes.
The world won't change unless we change, so we can't just look at the world to change. We've got to be the one that makes that difference, you know. And is that what basically you're saying, this type of era, the now what question is doing? It
is, and in that way we raise ourselves to a new level. In many ways become more of a group consciousness, and it's a higher state of being. It's like what I was describing earlier on about at 21st of December 2012, the rate of progress went through the roof, and it's like we need to go through the roof as well to a whole new level, and we would do that by seeing ourselves as one big group, one big planetary family, and taking responsibility for ourselves and also for others to the extent that we can. And really encouraging everyone to work together, to support each other, and to feel that bond, you know, the kind of bond that comes from the heart.
Exactly, and that's what we all love. But our social awkwardness stops it, thinking, oh no, what they're going to think? They're going to think I'm weird. They're going to think I fancy them. They're going to think, and we stop ourselves giving love because we're going to worry. We worry what people are going to think about us. Well, deep down, that's what we all want, and that's what we all crave. And this is more us. This is the more real us than the mundane stuff a lot of people talk about. It's talked about every single day. This is the stuff that we all crave and we all want to feel, isn't it?
And I'd just like to go back to the Mayan calendar to make this point, that what it indicates is that we are all one being, one consciousness, and the whole process appears to be the development of the single global consciousness, a single global family. And that's really the basis for the way that we can move forward together.
We've talked about the shift in consciousness and what you think and what the Mayans were kind of thinking we were going through. But from this day now, what can we actually do? What can we, with their knowledge, with the what's happened with the calendar, with this, like you said, the new energy as such we're in, what can we really do to help each other? What's next? What can we do to make a difference?
I think what really has to be emphasized is that there was purpose in the Mayan calendar. The whole series of cycles from the time of the Big Bang up until today just reeks of purpose of some sort. And I'm afraid we're kind of left to speculate about exactly what that purpose was. But really it does. I mean, it's just very difficult. The more you look at it, the more difficult it is to deny that there must be some sort of reason for it, some sort of end purpose for it. And to me, what that suggests is that we ourselves have to be something that the Mayan calendar seems to indicate. And as I was saying, it's as if we need to be one global consciousness, one global family doing something together. I think we'd have to speculate about what that might be. But if we're a group of some sort, then I think there is the element of we all need to be in some way participating in the group. We need to be responsible for what we do as individuals, and also to be responsible for the whole group to whatever extent we're capable of doing. And obviously different people have different capabilities in that regard. But we can see that there are very big things that need to be dealt with in the world. For example, here in our own country, we've got this problem of the national debt and all these austerity measures that the government's talking about. Well, the debt should never have existed in the first place, and that debt has just got to go. It's not a case of we have to pay it off. It should never have been created in the first place. The whole of the monetary system that we've been working with for centuries now basically is corrupt at its heart.
It is.
And we need to deal with that.
It's based on debt, isn't it? It's
absolutely
built on debt.
It is, yes. And who gets the interest on the debt?
Yeah.
The banks do. You know, who owns the banks? So who gets all this interest on the debt? It should never have been necessary to create money like that as a debt. And I've been involved with the Monetary Reform Association for years, so I'm familiar with all of that. And so the Occupy movement, for example, talks about, this has got to be dealt with, and it has. And we need to find solutions to this. It's actually quite difficult to do that, and I'm not going to suggest, well, I am actually, but it's difficult to know exactly what to do about that. But we may need to find a different kind of way of exchange, a different monetary system.
We are running out of time, but quickly, it was interesting was the thing about Iceland, because they took over the people got that, but again, it's not mentioned on the mainstream media.
Right.
Yes, for some reason. But yes, it's not mentioned on there, but they talk about the idea that Iceland took over their banks, stopped all the debt, took over and made this non-debt system, but it's not mentioned by many people, which is very interesting. So if they can do it, then everyone can do it, but they don't want it being spread out there. And I think as well, like you were saying, it's the idea of taking responsibility for our lives and our world, and that we are all one. So actually me hurting you is actually hurting me, really, rather than seeing you as separate and you as a different country, you as a different person. Actually, you are me, so me hurting you is actually hurting me. And it's the idea of the one consciousness, isn't it? The idea of we are all one. But in the same breath, we are all individuals. Not everyone likes pizza. Not everyone wants to live in Britain. Not everyone loves the snow. We are individuals, but it's being tolerant and loving and accepting, and we're aware that we are all one. Yes. It's like a buffet of life.
Yes, enjoy the differences.
Exactly. Not everyone likes the onion rings. Doesn't mean we should take the onion rings off the buffet. It's the idea of being tolerant to everything and moving forward with it. And we've only got about a minute or so left, Philip. So how would you say, in a minute, what would you want people, or what do you think we should do? Is it, again, going forward from now?
I think we should just have this awareness of a growing sense of family and a growing sense of responsibility for the way we live on this planet. And to begin to do what we can do to restore some of the damage that has been done by humanity. As I said, for example, by planting trees. Simple thing to do, but it's really effective.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't like to be directly politically involved, demonstrations and that sort of thing. But the fact is that there's a lot of political work that needs to be done. Yeah. With the big companies, for example, I mean, you were saying about perhaps not buying from the supermarkets, but buying from local shops. Perhaps in our local areas, we should be more locally self-sufficient. There should be more local traders, more people growing food in the local areas, more people even in their own back gardens growing food, buying commodities of all sorts from the local area rather than from across the other side of the world. We can all do these things. There are many things we can be doing.
Exactly. So not everyone can go on, I understand, can go down to London and protest, but you can do your bit here, and it's about everyone taking their responsibility. What can I do? I've got to be the change I wish to see. I can't moan at the little shop shutting if I'm shopping at supermarkets. Right. So do you know what? One day a week, I'm going to buy from the local market, just bit by bit. Even myself, I made a pact to myself that I'm going to pick up one bit of litter every day, at least one. If I see it, I'm going to pick it up. Because I've got to be the change I wish to see. Yeah, I can't pick every single piece of litter up. And there's a post on Facebook, which I'm going to finish with, which someone said, I can't change the world, but I can make a difference. Now, if everyone made a difference,
Perfect.
the change would happen.
Perfect.
And I think we should leave it on that note. Philip,
Very good.
thank you so much for coming back into the show. I'd love to have you back, and we'll talk about a different